has been said that children not only need discipline, but that they want it. When properly administered, it may be for them a reassurance that they are still cared for and loved. But the problem for parents is often how to lovingly offer this correction in the right way. God foresaw the need of establishing strong family ties and building strong foundations for adult lives. He had the principles for doing so written into His Word, the Bible. The bad effects resulting from failure to apply these principles stands in marked contrast to the good effects of their successful application in caring for children. Today, the Summers family encounters a situation that requires a boy to learn that properly applied Bible discipline is truly a gesture of love. Our scene opens as Joe Summers and his son David are just returning home.
Daddy, Dave, Mom is making little Tim do kitchen chores.
And you're excited?
No, Daddy, I'm just sorry for Timmy, and I was hoping
I see. You were hoping I wouldn't add to his woe.
David, don't you say anything either, please.
Why should I? I like the little fellow, too.
Well, what have we here? A new little potato peeler?
I'm being punished by Aunt Fran, Uncle Joe.
I see. Anything to do with the excitement here this afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Hi, hon.
Hello, Joe.
Phew, boy, things do smell a bit burnt around here, don't they? How bad? You didn't tell me over the phone.
Well, the ceiling got a bit smoked up, and Lieutenant Davis...
Lieutenant Davis?
Well, I didn't tell you everything, Joe. Like I said when I saw the fire engine here, I was scared to death.
Firemen and the police?
Well, the firemen found no fire, just a lot of smoke. We couldn't understand what had happened. Tim had pushed the pan of beans off the stove, and for a moment we couldn't see what caused all the smoke.
But you said on the phone someone broke in.
Well, in his scramble, Timothy knocked some chairs over, so we thought someone might have broken in. We were still puzzling things over when our little false alarmist came up and confessed.
False alarmist, Mom?
Timothy, maybe you'd better explain.
Honest, Uncle Joe, I got scared. I didn't mean any harm. I didn't know I turned the heat up so high.
He could see I'd been cooking those beans, Joe, so he thought he'd help. But he turned the heat up too high.
Who called the fire department?
I did. Like Mom always told me to do at home. I just told the operator your address. Then I saw the beans smoking and pushed them off the burner.
But why did you panic and hide Tim?
I remembered they arrest you for sending in false alarms, and I got scared and hid until I sneaked up and heard Annie talking about a robber. Then I knew I had to tell that it was me.
Well, he could have stayed hidden and come in later, Dad, to make Mom think he was just getting home, and then she wouldn't have known what he did. You made a clean breast of it, Tim, and I think that's pretty good.
Yes, it is, but I don't quite understand, Fran. You said Tim was trying to help. Well, he even tried to save the house by calling the fire department. The fact he panicked wasn't too great a sin, now was it?
Well, he not only tried, he did help. This afternoon I served some of the girls' tea, but we left before I could clear the dishes and crumbs away. And Timothy cleared the dishes, even cleaned up the crumbs with the vacuum cleaner.
That's the right spirit.
Well, not only that, he went out and raked all the grass you cut on the front lawn last night, David.
Well, I don't understand, Fran. I thought we agreed on the phone that Tim could be forgiven his misdeeds, yet you seem to be punishing him.
Well, haven't you forgotten something, dear? Where was I all this time?
Well, that has been in the back of my mind. Where were you? You've always been home when the children got home from school.
I came home at around 3:30. The children got here sometime after 4.
3:30?
Well, Timothy had raked the lawn, tried to help me, and called the fire department all before this.
Well, when did you get home, Tim?
2 o'clock, Uncle Joe. Teacher sent me home to punish me.
Oh, really? What for?
I shot spitwads at Billy Lawson. She said she knew you and Annie, and she thought you should know what I did.
You could have hid and come home later so you wouldn't know, Dad.
I thought of that, but Miss Gregory might call and you'd find out.
So all this helping your aunt and raking the lawn was a cover-up for your being naughty and being afraid of punishment. I see why your aunt is disciplining you.
Well, I'm only correcting Timothy for what he did at school. I thought you should care for the matter of his sacrificing to cover disobedience, Joe.
Sacrificing to cover disobedience. Tim, I think you'd better come straight home from school and help your cousins for at least another week.
Kitchen chores for a week, Uncle Joe? I'm not a girl.
Tonight after supper, we'd better have a little talk.
Timothy, come here, please.
Yes, Aunt Fran?
I want you to know the time for having a long face is all over. You've been naughty, but you're taking the discipline, and we all need correction. You know, the Bible even says God punishes those he loves, and we do love you, Tim. But just between us, your uncle's talk tonight is nothing to be upset about. You may even enjoy it. Uncle Joe doesn't want anyone upset or feeling bad at our meals when he asks Jehovah's blessing on us all. You'd be confined to your room if it was really bad. So go with David and get ready for supper.
Dave, are your Mom and Dad still mad at me?
Well, did they sound like it?
Aunt Fran did smile, and she poked my nose with her finger, but her eyes still looked awful strict. Uncle Joe's, too. Today, when I didn't tell Aunt Fran what I'd done bad, and she was looking at me while she was talking to Uncle Joe on the phone, and then she asked me afterwards and found out all about it. For a moment, I thought she was going to whack me.
Whack you?
If my Mom looked that mad, she'd whack me and jaw me good.
Well, Mom was concerned and upset, but she wouldn't whack you that fast anyway.
That fast?
I mean, she'd take time to do it. If she lost her temper and whacked you, she'd even say she was sorry. Mom and Dad don't lose their tempers much, at least, well, since they've studied the Bible.
How can it take a long time to whack someone? Just pow or pow pow and you're whacked.
Well, when something bad comes up, they take time to find out all about it. So if Mom had decided you needed it, you'd have known all about what was coming before it did. And Tim, you can take Deb's and my word for it. If Dad and Mom have to make it hurt, they really can. Though, well, they'd never cut or bruise or injure you.
You mean they don't really hurt?
Oh, I don't mean that at all. A session or two with Dad when I was a bit younger than you convinced me he could really spank hard. And Deb found out that Mom's bare hand could give her something to sit and think on for a while. But our folks are fair.
Boy, they sure are strict. But I still like them. Dave?
Yeah?
I gotta wash my neck and ears, huh?
I'll guarantee you'd better. Wouldn't your Mom make you?
Oh, she'd yell about it. The most I could get away without doing it good.
You'd better not try that around here with your aunt.
I know what you mean, Dave. The other day I sassed your Mom, and she made me bend over and gave me a whack, and told me plenty. What's funny is, if my Mom had done that, I'd have been good and mad. I wouldn't even have been over. But when Annie did it, it hurt more inside than it did outside.
Tim, you think your Mom would punish you if you didn't need it?
Well, sometimes she does it just because she's mad.
Well, don't you think she loves you?
Guess she loves me all right, but she makes me mad when she lets me do something one day, and then she whacks me all over the place when I do it the very next day.
And what about your dad?
Dad? I don't know about him.
I guess he hasn't spent enough time with you. Your Mom has spent a lot more time. But, Tim, how much time have you spent being good, convincing your folks that you love them? It takes time to be a good son, just like it takes time to be a good dad or mom.
Hey, maybe I could stay here all the time, instead of until Dad comes home. I don't get in fights with babysitters here. Uncle Joe and Aunt Fran spend lots of time being Mom and Dad.
But if you go home and spend lots of time being good, why, wouldn't your Mom maybe spend more time making you happy? And your Dad would find it better to come home.
I wish they would.
Why not try them? And let me give you a tip, Tim. Don't say anything bad about your Dad and Mom to my Dad and Mom.
Why not?
I mean, even if you don't think they're always right. For one reason, well, your Mom is my Mom's sister. And my folks, they don't like to hear children disrespectful to their parents.
Oh, I see.
Being a bad son wouldn't help anything, would it? Being a good son would be better. Then if you need help, you can get it. But who wants a bad little apple?
Hey, you two, hurry up in there. And Timmy, just because you think that kitchen chores are girls' work doesn't mean you've got to primp in there like you say I do. Hurry up now, Tim.
Well, David and Debbie, did anything about our talk before supper remind you of anything in the Bible?
Well, that phrase, sacrifice and disobedience, sounded familiar, Dad.
Give us a hint, Daddy.
Well, how about 1 Samuel?
Oh, thanks. A lot of things happened there.
Well, how about King Saul? Was he a good king?
No, he wasn't. He disobeyed Jehovah.
What did Samuel, the prophet and judge, tell him?
Oh, I got it. Didn't Samuel tell Saul something about obedience being better than sacrifice?
And that's what you meant about Timmy.
That's very good. Now, Debbie, here. I'm getting 1 Samuel 15:22 for you. Here, take the Bible and read that scripture.
Okay, Daddy. It says, "In turn Samuel said, 'Does Jehovah have as much delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of Jehovah? Look, to obey is better than a sacrifice, to pay attention than the fat of rams.'"
Now then, just how did Saul disobey Jehovah? David?
God told him to destroy some spoils of war. Saul destroyed some of it, but disobeyed by saving some of it because the people wanted it. But he sacrificed some of it to Jehovah.
And what did Samuel tell him?
He said obedience was better than sacrifice.
Now, Tim, you didn't obey your teacher, did you?
No, sir.
And then you did some things you thought would please your aunt, hoping she'd forget you'd been bad, right?
Yes, Uncle Joe.
Now, which do you think Auntie would prefer? An obedient little boy, or a little boy who'd do things for her? Now, what did the Bible say?
It would be better if I had minded her.
Now, can you see some of the reasons why obedience is better than sacrifice in what happened to you today?
If I'd obeyed Miss Gregory, you wouldn't be mad at me.
That's right.
And I wouldn't have to work so hard.
And if you'd have come home and confessed to Auntie like your teacher told you, would it have been so bad?
My mom would have whacked me if she wasn't feeling good.
Now, tell me, Tim, would you have told your mother?
I don't think so. I'd have stayed out of her way.
But what did your aunt do? How did she punish you?
She made me do kitchen chores.
Now, Debbie, you're closer to Tim's age. Would you tell him why Mother punished you when you disobeyed like he did?
I remember, Daddy. She didn't do it just because I disobeyed her. She did it so I wouldn't do it again.
I won't do it again, honest. Uncle Joe?
Yes, Tim?
Back home, we have a teacher. He's my favorite. He even makes old history interesting. He draws, acts, even makes things. He calls it a project. You and Auntie, all of you, you make it interesting, just showing me why I ought to be good, like a project.
We didn't make this project, Tim.
Your uncle's right, Tim. It's part of God's law that parents care for children. You see, Jehovah made and put in the Bible the recipe or blueprint or whatever you want to call it for this project, and he produces the ingredients. He made this project for caring for children for everyone to use, and any family can use it who wants to take the time.
Well, that's enough for right now, Tim. Would you turn on the radio, David? It's time for the news.